Hey teens, you're watching another episode of Shasta's Teen Journal, and I'm your host Shasta, and today I will be interviewing two new local authors who have just published their first book, and you'll be hearing their experiences throughout their writing journey in this process. Let's go ahead and introduce you guys.
Okay, I'm Don Clark.
I'm Bob Frick.
And what inspired you to write your first book?
Well, it's actually an interesting story. At our church, we have on a New Year's Eve, we do the 4 hours before midnight, we do a kind of a talent thing. And you do anything you want, really, as long as you don't embarrass yourself.
Yeah.
But what I did was to try to write a 10-minute little story about what I think the Lord put on my heart to do. And as I began to prepare that little 10-minute excerpt, it ran a lot longer than I thought.
Really?
Because I was trying to develop characters and a culture, and it went kind of on and on and on. And lo and behold, I began to get a story, and I just kept writing. So I knew I couldn't do that particular evening, but because it was turning into something that sounded kind of interesting, I just kept writing. And I wound up with the first book called The New Adventure, The Lands of New, and got self-published. I self-published, and now we're ready to go. So
Awesome. How long did it take you to write it?
Probably the first draft, lots of drafts. My wife taught a business English class in Martinez, so she was my editor, so I didn't have to,
Oh, awesome.
I
So
didn't
you
have to rent an editor.
That's good.
Yes.
And here's the book.
That's book one of The Lands of New, The New Adventure that I wrote.
Who's the illustrations by?
By Mike Miller.
Mike Miller.
Yeah, he's a contract illustrator, did a fantastic job, because all he had to go with was my little black and white text, and he just made them come alive. It was really exciting.
Well, what inspired you to write your first book, Tears of the Heart?
Well, actually, my wife, she gave up a daughter for adoption, and a month later, I met her, and almost a year to the date we were married. I'd been looking around for a wife for years and years and years and years, and it's pretty slim pickings out there, really. Really. If you bachelors out there know what I mean. When I found her, this was the one. But when I was about to ask her to marry me, it was getting kind of sweaty, and I was getting a little nervous, and she said, "Well, there's something I have to tell you." And I said, "Uh-oh." I almost started crying because I knew it was going to be something like she had terminal cancer, or that she was already married, or she had, a husband and 3 children, or something like that. But she said, I had a child, and I gave it up for adoption. No, she said, I had a child, and this is a baby girl. I was excited because I was getting a twofer. 2 girls for the price of 1.
Yeah.
A wife and a daughter, and I've loved little girls ever since then. And then she told me that no, she gave it up for adoption, and I was crushed. I said, "Oh, that's interesting." I was almost crying when I heard that, and because I was getting a twofer, and then it was taken away from me. So then, for the next 35 years. We talked about it.
Wow.
It was a secret adoption, and we talked about it, and we always wondered where she was. Was she healthy? Was she all right? Was she even alive?
Yeah. Would you guys pray for her?
Oh, yeah.
Just because, she wasn't there, but yeah.
And so, more later if you want. I'll tell you later.
Okay. Do you have a specific writing style?
No.
No, so you just go with it.
Yes. It's fiction. It's a fiction book based on what the Bible has. I've gleaned what was necessary for a character development from the Bible, and that book's basis is that.
Okay.
I don't have a particular writing style except it's fiction. My genre right now is for children. I've written a little poetry, but this is really kind of exciting. The genre is between probably 2nd grade and 6th. would probably
Okay.
kind of get it.
Yeah, so like my sister's age.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, yeah. Do you think teens might be interested in it too?
Well, the subject
possibly?
matter, even though the characters are these little furry creatures,
Yeah.
the Bible tells us that when we're weak, He's strong. And so I'm hoping that the children get that even when they appear weak to maybe the world around them, that they can do kind of what my Newits do, which is,
Yeah.
sharing what life's all about. They go through some problems. I believe this life is all about character development.
Yeah, I actually got the chance to read to my little sisters.
That's right.
And, I mean, there's some parts where they didn't really understand like some of the words, but other than that, I mean, it's something that they were interested in hearing, and
Yeah.
it was good. That it
Yes.
actually meant something, and
Yes.
hopefully got something out of it. What's your writing techniques? Styles?
Write it when you think about it. And then you, see, this was written 18 years before it was actually published, and it was
Yeah,
written in
that's
secrecy.
crazy.
It was written in secrecy. My wife didn't know anything about it, and actually, when we found, well, later on, we found her daughter, and we found out that her name was King. Her adopted parents were Mr. and Mrs. King. So right away, I'm a storyteller. My wife said, "Oh yeah, tell me anything and I'll tell you a story." So all of a sudden, this came in as a kind of a fable story, king and queen and such like that, and a
Okay.
princess.
Yeah.
And that's where that came in.
Gotcha. Awesome. How did you come up with the title, The Land of New?
Well, I had to come up with a title of the culture I was
Yeah.
going to design. And one of the things that comes right at the end of the Bible is when God talks about there's going to be a new heavens and new earth. So I know that somehow His people are going to be involved in that. And so if there's going to be a new heavens and new earth, then there's got to be something perhaps that out there, this is not going to be more killing and that kind of thing going on. But I say it's all about character after that. And so I knew, well, because God talks about a new heavens and a new earth. So I said the lands of new, but I spelled it N-U-U instead of N-E-W. But that's
Gotcha.
where it came into my mind. It says this is the lands of new.
And what about the characters? Do they resemble anybody?
The kinds of things that happen to them, where there's a need for, it's all about family, it's about forgiveness, it's about love, goodness and kindness, working together. So there's a lot of things about cooperation and teamwork. And so all that's involved in some of their little misadventures and adventures, and they get themselves, tied up occasionally. The first story is about the main characters getting lost, and they get found by some of their woodland cousins, and it's how to find their way home.
Yeah.
And I know you're young people, there's lots of ways to get lost.
Yeah?
It's not just geography.
No.
You can get lost in your emotions and
Yeah,
relationships and things
definitely.
like that. So it's how to work your way out of that. And these little Newits kind of do that. So I think we all can relate to kind of
Yeah.
what they go through.
Exactly.
In some way, we're like that.
And how did you come up with your title, The Tear of Hearts?
Tears of the Hearts, well, the story goes on where it's two young school teachers just graduated from Teachers College, going over to teach in a brand new school. And one day, the particular school teacher is walking along and she finds something under the bush and it's moving. It's a little baby kitten. I mean, it's so new, so brand new, shall we say. Its eyes hadn't even been opened yet.
Wow.
So she took it home, and unbeknownst to her roommate, who's allergic to kittens, to cats, cat hair and such like that, some people are, she had to give it up for adoption. And she said, when she did that, her heart was broken because this was her little kitten. And she had to give it up, and her heart was crying tears of the heart. That's where the title came from. Yeah.
That's great. Is there anything that you want your readers to get out of the book?
Well, I hope they learn pretty much what I intended for the Newits to learn, was just what I shared.
Yeah.
how to be kind and the acts of goodness, and when you need to forgive, and to work together, to see things through. When you're lost, you need help, and that's what they get from their cousins of the woods. And so I hope the children that read it, and maybe even your young people who to call you and talk to you, will know there's a plan and a purpose for us all, and God's got a way to move through things to help us find our way home, which is what this book is
Couldn't have
about.
said it better. Is there a message in your novel that you want your readers to grasp?
Yes, the whole theme of the book is love. And the last page goes to 1 Corinthians.
It's the heart, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right here?
Yes.
I'm gonna show
Yeah. Let me just read that for them. 1 Corinthians 15. Love bears all things. Love believes all things. Love hopes all things. Love never fails. And this is the story of the kitten that was given up. It was adopted by a king and queen, and that's the actual parents that you.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they are princes. The people that adopt these children, they are absolutely royalty. I was brought up in a family where it was broken. One of the families that I lived with was my father's sister, and they had adopted 4 children. So I'm familiar with adoption.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because they couldn't have any children. Well, the king and the queen couldn't have any children, so they were advised by their advisor to adopt a pet and really love it. And if you really loved it, you would never be lonesome again.
Aww.
And that's what happens. They were never lonesome again because of the adoption. And there's a little transfiguration in here about what happens with the kitten. It turns into the princess that they had always wanted but never could have. That shows it in the book. The pictures are just gorgeous. They're just
Yeah.
gorgeous, yeah.
Yeah, who exactly, I mean, I know, but will you tell the viewers who this book is about, and how did they feel when they found out you were actually writing a book about their life?
Oh, that's the second story, really, because I wrote it, and for 18 years, I had completed it, but it wasn't quite right.
Yeah.
There was just something missing, and all it was black and white on paper. And so then all of a sudden it was pictures.
Yeah.
And so I was looking for an artist, and that took a couple of years, and every time I saw a painting that I liked, I asked, who did that? And I finally got a hold of the person that did these.
Mm-hmm. Which is Sarah.
Sarah Etherington, yes.
Yeah.
She, and I waited all these years to find her, and I didn't want a photograph. I didn't want harsh pictures. I wanted very soft. And in some of the pictures she's using 3 mediums: watercolors, charcoal, colored pencils, and I think patinas, something like that. But she's using 3 mediums, and you can, the people that know paint and color like that, they can pick it out. But it's just beautifully done.
Is there a picture that stands out the most to you in the book?
What's the cover picture?
The cover picture?
Yeah, that's when she's giving up the kitten for
girl.
adoption.
Yeah.
The tears of the heart.
Yeah.
She was crying.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And then what does the bell represent exactly?
Well, when she gave up, when Joanna in the story gave up the kitten, she also took one of her silver earrings and put a blue ribbon around it and tied it around the kitten's neck. The blue ribbon, which is explained in the after story, there's a 2.5-page story about how and why it was written, how it was conceived, all the little nuances of the story. The book, the silver earring, actually was a Winnie the Pooh book that Joanna, who is my wife, gave to the adoption people and said, this must go with her when she's adopted. And so she came back the next day, and the baby and the book were gone. It was adopted. And it took, 35 years, I think, 32, 35 years to find her. And when she finally found her, then we found out that her name was King, and that's where the story comes in and everything like that. It's just a lot of God's timing and God's world.
Who supported you throughout your journey of writing?
Probably my wife.
Your wife.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, she really encouraged me.
That's good.
She did the editing on my book and so forth, but she was really encouraging.
Okay,
me.
so she was the one that edited your book.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
did
well,
she
I
have
had
experience
actually had a
before that?
professional at one point do that.
Uh-huh.
I sent it out, and they actually did a critique on it and so forth. But she was the biggest source of my encouragement and editing behind the book. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. And what about you? Who supported you throughout your journey?
I think my love for my wife and also the Lord, because I wanted to give her something that she could remember, she'd have, and also the daughter, something that she could have also. That's brought out later on in the book, how they were finally brought together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you could do anything over again, would you change anything?
Probably not. I enjoy where it's going.
Yeah.
I've written a second book already based on these adventures, and so it's just kind of moving
Think
along.
there's going to be more than that?
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I've got 'em all figured
And
out.
how about you? Are you going to do one about them, after the reuniting?
Well, actually, in back of the book, each book, there's a 2.5-page how and why, and it was written and how it was conceived and such. And about 7-8 months ago, I was going to have my wife go down to Dallas, where her daughter lives, and I was going to present her with the book, both of them, and they would not know it. But first of all, I had a little envelope with a silver bell in there with a blue ribbon that I was going to put around my wife's neck, and then I was going to have her put the silver bell around her daughter's neck. Well, my wife had the flu, so I didn't want to take her down there and spread the flu to her. So we had a telephone conversation, and I set up a two-way telephone conversation, and they both had similar envelopes. They opened the big envelopes, and there was a little package with a silver bell in there. So I had her husband put the silver bell around her neck, the daughter's neck, and I put the bell around my wife's neck, and they started reading it. And it was a wonderful time. It was just such a joyous
Was this over
time.
the phone?
It was over the phone, yeah. My wife started, and the name I have for her is Joanna in the book. When Joanna was reading, she got about to the 6th page and started crying, like I'm starting to do now. Because she suddenly realized, I think, that it was about them.
Yeah.
The book
Their
was
life.
about them. So Amy picked up the book, picked up reading on the phone, and she kept on reading until she was overcome with tears. Then Joanna continued. Yeah, it was.
That must have been an awesome experience.
Yeah, it was. It
Yeah.
was wonderful.
Is there any challenges that you have faced while trying to write the book, The Land of New?
Well, I didn't think it would take as long as
Yeah.
it did. Plus, when you self-publish, there's always the expense, and so you had to wait till things kind of came,
Yeah.
provision and stuff for it. Yeah, but like Bob said, it's in God's timing for these things, and we just took it one step at a time and see what would happen,
Exactly.
and yeah, now things are really starting.
Was there any challenges that you faced while writing?
Keeping it a secret.
Yeah,
Had
that
to
must
keep
have been a
it a
big one.
secret, and then I had it published. I was looking all around. Joanna didn't know anything about the pictures that were being taken, that were being drawn. Sarah, she was in the same church we were, and we'd been talking to her, and her mother said, well, Sarah does pictures, so I sent one over, and she drew one. I said, that's what I want. And so for the next 2 or 3 months, 4 months, I guess, Sarah was feeding me pictures, and said, yeah, a little bit darker here, a little bit lighter. So that was kind of the whole secrecy thing was really something. But it was worth it when we both got on the phone, it would have been better if we were in person, but when we both got on the phone, the two girls, birth mother and birth daughter, they started reading it. They both were teared up.
Awesome. What's the plot overview of your book, exactly?
The first book is about you have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So the main characters, which is a small family of Newits called, and the little girl is called Cece. She has two twin brothers.
Which one is that? Is that the...
Yeah, they're on the
What
cover.
color is she?
Well, she's right in the first illustration. You'll see as you come to it.
No?
Next page, I think.
Oh, next page. Or not?
Yeah, there you go.
That's her?
No,
No?
Cece's on this one.
Okay, we can show it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you have to get familiar with their colors to distinguish who's who.
Okay, so who's the blue guy?
The blue guy is their cousin, the Woods Newitt. He can fly, and the little Newitts are of the plains. They can't fly. They have feathered fur, and they can float. So between the three floating plains Newitts and their cousin Chi-Chi, who's got the wings, they can actually fly together.
Okay,
and
then...
all the process in the stories is these teams, these flying teams they call them, fly across the lands of New and meet different cultures and new beings they meet and share the love of God to the people they meet.
And then the purple one is Cece.
Purple one's Cece, and then her brothers are Zat and Jat.
Oh yeah, okay, I remember. I was like, yeah. All right.
Yes.
Yeah. And then how about you? With the question.
What was the question?
It was
I'm involved with his book. It's great. His book is great.
Well, what was the plot overview like? The climax and downfall.
Okay, the whole purpose of the book was kind of showing that we have a subject that I'm not going to mention, but you'll know what it is. Adoption is the option, is the only thing I would have put in the book, rather than other ways of disposing. And that's the whole thing, because this came out so beautifully. It was just a miracle. It was just beautifully done. Yeah, God's timing and God's grace was wonderful in this. And I would say, think before you leap and really consider. There are two people involved, not just you.
Yeah, that's true
right.
too. Yeah.
That's right.
Can you share any of your current work with us?
Well, to get this book, you showed into the camera to the viewers the book 1, and actually there's a book 2, which has a similar cover.
They'll say The Land of News Part 2.
It says book 2 at the bottom there, and the title is The
Book
Windrunner
2.
Cloud Chaser. And the whole idea is to, the Cece and her two brothers get lost in too much woods, which surrounds the plains where they live, and there's no way home, and we talked about ways to be lost. And so they need Chi-Chi and a plan to get them home, and the development of what they're calling this little flying gidget, which gets them around, you see them on the front of the book there, that's a flying gidget. And the idea is to get them back home. That's the main plot.
Yeah.
But it's also they find out that the Woods Newitts are actually their cousins.
Okay.
Yeah, because these little Newitts, they get in trouble if they float up too high in the air and a big wind comes up, they will blow into too much woods. And a lot of them did that. And God changed the way they look, and they wind up being like the one with the wings in order to survive in the woods. So God did a little...
So like a transformation.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so the second book is about the two groups coming together as family on the plains, and they begin to plan these new adventures. So this is sort of a launching story.
Yeah.
It's kind of adventure within an adventure. And the next one is about, at the end of this story, they're getting cries of, "Come help me." And it's coming from the north at the Great Sea. And so that's their next adventure. But they get interrupted by another adventure in between. And they meet another whole different culture and interact with them. And it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm anxious to.
Are you working anything new?
No, I'm not.
So do you think you're going to keep writing, or was this just a one-time thing?
Oh, the writing is interesting because I heard a story from a lady that wrote a book when we were in Las Vegas, I believe. And it was about losing your son to rock climbing. And I read the book, and I wrote her kind of a screenplay type thing, about two pages, about how I would have written it. And she says, no, it has to be the way it was written in the book. The way it was written in the book is boring. The one I had it was good. It had a good hook at the end, and you'd read the end and you go, I like those type. But everything it turned out all right.
How does one get started writing a book?
Wow.
Yeah,
mine was strictly
big process.
mine was sort of by accident, as I just told you.
Yeah.
Now I've got these other stories that are
Just
they've
coming
been
to you,
planted in
nice.
me. So I now just have to take the time to get them down on paper again and continue the adventure.
Yeah.
So
What
it's fun.
about you? Do you have any advice for people who are trying to write their first book?
I would say think about it. Think about what the chapters are, kind of outline it in your mind, put it on paper, and then just write a very rough outline for, maybe you've got 10 chapters or so, just kind of roughly outline the 10 chapters, and then go back and start filling them in and say, oh, this doesn't fit. So you can kind of have an outline for it that you can really make it fit and develop.
What advice would you give to people who are running out of creativity?
Well, from Bob and I's points of view, the way we were led, we know the Lord's involved in what we're doing. But like Bob was saying, anybody that has a sense of, this is what I'm experienced or what I want to share is meant for a bigger field than just my friends, that they should just begin writing it down and journaling things that happen to them. And I'm not sure the total mentality of writers, but I know when they have a sense of writing, they write.
Yeah.
And I've been told, as I've been through a few writers' seminars, that there's always telling writers, continue to write, making notes, writing what you're feeling, what you're seeing, what you're experiencing, and eventually a story will maybe come from that.
Well, I want to thank you guys for being guests on Shastas Teen Journal. And is there any website or YouTube videos that they can look for your books? Or?
Yeah, mine is on Amazon.
So his is The Land of New.
Yep, you can get it both in Kindle or hardback. You can order direct from Amazon.
Okay.
And it's amazon.com /author /Donald E. Clark, and you go right to my website, and all these books are online.
Awesome. And then you can look up The Tears of the Heart. And, all right. Well, thank you guys. That was such an incredible story, and thank you for giving them different tips on if they run out of creativity. And I just want to say thank you for watching Shastas Teen Journal, and we'll see you next time. You can go like us on Facebook, Shastas Teen Journal, and shastasteenjournal.weebly.com. All right, see you next time. Bye.